Prime here, back another custom review. And today we're taking a look at the Transformers Shattered Glass Galvatron. Here he is in his vehicle mode. Before we go to him, let's take a quick look at the paints. So as always, there was some light gray surface primer, as well as some semi-gloss clear. Also some AS-27 Gunship Gray 2. I don't know why there's two, but alright. TS-24 purple. And TS-29 semi-gloss black. It'll focus a little bit more. Thank you. As well as some sky blue. Medium gray. Semi-gloss black. Some chrome silver. Purple. A mixed red shade, which I think is the same shade I used on my, I think both the Shattered Glass Megatron Core custom, and then also the little Legends Shattered Glass Galvatron I did. It's that same mix. And it's probably like some red and white or red and orange mixture, something like that. And finally, some synthetic graphite dye, which I will get more into when the video goes on, because I use it so infrequently. I feel the need to explain it every time I do it. But here he is in the car mode, and this is, of course, based on the Siege Springer mold, more specifically the Wrecker version of Siege Springer. And this, you might have seen this in the top customs of last year, because it is something I finished last year, but I just didn't take the time to review it. But I figured for the first custom review of 2026, sorry how long it's taken, we'd do him. But here he is in the car mode, and I tried to pack in a ton of detail into this. You can see some little details here on the sides. I have the wheels with a little bit of red, just to give it some fun. The front here looks nice and mean with the Decepticon symbols on each shoulder, which I thought about doing just like the chest, but I thought that'd be a little bit more boring and generic, so I thought this would be more fun. Up here is there's a lot of detail with some nice purple there, some silver, little black in there, and these little vents painted red, be sort of reminiscent of the shoulder cannons from the back, like with the red there, and some purple like the actual cannons themselves. And the cockpit here, that's blue. It's a little bit of black trim around it. I tried going really hard on this. I hope it shows. But a little bit of backstory for this custom, because I don't remember if I explained it in that video, and if not, it's here too. This was originally going to be a Shattered Glass Springer based on the IW colors, but since I could not match those to save my life, and just how it was turning out, I really didn't like how it was going, just because I couldn't really get it to match, and just it wasn't working out how I wanted to. I decided halfway through just to shift to this, because most of it worked, but I did end up having to buy a second Wrecker Springer, just because there were a few things already painted and did that I could have not done or done better if I just had a clean one, so I just decided to buy a second one anyway. And so I was able to clean up a few areas, and here it is now. There's still a few remnants of this being Springer, mainly that this is a dark gray. I probably wouldn't have done this. This probably would have been a light gray just to kind of match all of this, or even a black. But I really like how it looks. Like, it just kind of adds that bit of extra dimension. So I'm not really complaining about it too much. I think it worked out. I think it worked out pretty well. But yeah, that's pretty much the fun part about this, is that originally Shattered Glass Galvatron, he's the evac mold, so he only turns into a helicopter, but with the new Hasbro Shattered Glass, in that's from Siege Megatron, and it technically still has the tank mode, it's a triple changer. So I think it's actually kind of fun that this still gets to be a triple changer with the car mode, and it still has a land vehicle, a flight vehicle, and then robot mode, and I think that's fun. But anyway, speaking of, let's go ahead and get him into that helicopter mode. And here in helicopter mode, it is kind of fun to just see this in like a Cybertronian helicopter, since, he's always been the more or less earthly one. But looking at it, it is still the same mold. But I did plug in the accessories because I did forget to show the guns in vehicle mode, but we'll talk more about them in robot mode. It'll be a lot cooler and make more sense, I promise. But I did spray paint. Did I spray paint this piece black? No, that was an advantage of this being the Wrecker version, is the fact that I'm pretty sure this was already black. I don't think it's painted or even dyed, no. It couldn't have died anyway, there was that pin going through. But that aside, here is the helicopter mode. It's been a few months since I finished this. I may or may not have forgotten a thing or two. But I do think it still looks quite nice. But of course, this is just Springer, so like his vehicle modes aren't that different. But you do get a bit of angle at the side. You get this. You get to see these kind of vent pieces there a little bit more, which are more there for robot mode. These will not peg together for some reason. They just don't do it. But I do still think this mode looks quite nice. And just for a bit of a comparison, I don't want to transform the Bakhan one, but I do have my little custom one I did, which is like most of that detail. So you can see things like the cockpit. I had done it in blue because it's just like that. I couldn't have made like the whole black front or this whole bit up here would have changed. I kind of just did it like that, which I think still looks quite nice. You can kind of see what I mean by the cannons. Let me take this off, show it off a little better. The fact that it's like the cannons are meant to be like purple with the little red tips, I kind of had those be like that facing the other way. I even painted the vent pieces in their black like the missiles, just because I thought it would make a bit more sense. I did think about painting the tail fin, but I decided to leave it blank just for the sake of playability, so it's easier to kind of transform back and forth. But yeah, I did keep the swords dark gray for similar reason. Plus, since there's already some dark gray in the decal already, why not? That is the main reason I did use the Wrecker Springer, is because it has like a lot of grays in it. The light gray is pretty close to just what the regular gray would have been anyway, because the legs are light gray on the design, and since these are the legs, it just worked out that way. And then even some of the internal dark gray pieces, like they all just work. Like these little internal dark gray bits, the light gray there, dark gray on the legs. But yeah, that's pretty much it for helicopter mode. Like I said, car mode, helicopter, they're more or less about the same. There's more interesting stuff in robot mode, so let's go ahead and get to that. And here in robot mode, I think the detail just comes together really well. We'll start up here at the head, which is just Springer's head, but I did modify it very slightly. The head fin mainly, I sanded it down to kind of match the rest of the crown. If I remember right, that was more or less it. It has a little bit of black up there, some black in the vents, with some of that nice gray paints for the face, and nice light blue eyes. The shoulders you've seen on every mode. The arms, though, get a more focus on this detail, which, like I said, I really just tried to pack in some good detail. I try to have those red highlights all over this toy, and I think I did pretty darn well at that. Little black lines here, which will make more sense when we see the rest of the robot mode. Got some little details here in the waist, so black there. The knees here with some nice red, but then the black going down with the purple at the bottom. And then the black hands, which before we get into accessories, we will actually talk about the dye, since, like I said earlier in the video, I do it so little that I feel the need to explain it every time. So what's dyed on this toy? The hands are dyed, the waist, the front of the waist is dyed, the back is actually painted. These little black pieces for the arms, those are dyed, and then the arms are dyed in some pieces. Let me kind of get this down just a little bit. If it'll come down. Come on. Come on now. There we go. These pieces are dyed. But if you see they look different, it's because of how dyeing plastic tends to work. So when you're dyeing plastic, you can't dye everything, really. It's mainly that unpaintable plastic, that rough stuff that they tell you they can't paint, you know, like the recent 86 Astrotrain. Everyone's mad that they didn't paint the chest portion, that little bit of red and black down there, and they're like, oh, it's unpaintable plastic. You can dye that plastic. You can't dye it in detail, like you couldn't say dye the plastic only where that detail is on 86 Astrotrain, but you can dye the entire piece, which is what I've done here. And that's why this is like, it won't scratch or anything. You can of course, if you like sand into it or anything, or you get a file and go in there, it's green underneath, but like the top layers of this piece of plastic are firmly black, so you don't have to worry about paint chipping. But that's why this looks so different, because this is not unpaintable plastic, which it did still dye. It doesn't look the best, and in the light you can really see the difference. But I think just kind of it blends in well enough. So how do you do it? How do you dye it? Well, you have to get some steaming water, not boiling, steaming, and you have to take off your unpaintable plastic pieces. There cannot be any other plastic with it. There can't be any like pins. So like, let's say you want to dye this entire arm, you have to get this pin out, you'd have to get this out, just as an example. Like, none of that can be there. It's just the part itself, and these have to sit in that water for a couple of minutes, not too long, and then when you pull them out, if they're dyed all the way around, you're done. But you don't want the water to be boiling, just simmering. But, yeah. That's pretty much it for dyeing plastic. The camera got slightly turned during that. Let me just... There we go. Well, since they just shot out at me, we'll talk about the accessories, which are his two guns, but they did a little bit of black there at the end, and some red into this vent. And then this weapon, which I kept some of that light gray on, with some black here. So they actually still can connect and form one gun. And then we've already talked about all this. The swords, this is all just the same pieces as they were. And I painted them this way because of Galvatron. We're going to get the BotCon one in here, which will go more into the proper comparison later, but I'm doing this for right now. Because you see this piece, it has a lot of purple, gray, and black, and so I painted this gun to kind of resemble it. While the other side of his arm kibble, it's mainly purple with black at the end. It's a little bit of red. So I painted this to kind of look like that. Of course, neither one of these is perfect. That's just more or less kind of close enough. I thought it'd be a fun little wink, wink, nod. And he fell over. That's a darn shame. Now for the accessories, since this is from War for Cybertron Siege, and everything can plug in everywhere. There's all sorts of different styles and ways you can display this thing, but my personal favorite is I like to take it, you can do it from this side and have the rotors spin, but I like to do it here so that they won't do that. And then I just take this gun, plug it in up top, kind of make that orientation, and I take this gun, plug it in on this side. And this is how I like to have this custom. Where he has his arm kibble. And this thing still Dutch angled me. My camera really wants to be the Dutch angle today. Alright. And now that we've done that, we will properly bring in Galvatron to compare. Let me scoop them back. These are tall toys. Get them kind of... There we go. Raise our camera up just a smidge. And you can see where a lot of the details came from. The purple down at the legs kind of came from that little bit of purple that comes off from the helicopter cockpit. The black line on the arm, I was going to do more black, but I decided to kind of just leave it more minimal. But I just want to have some black, so I painted that inner part of the arm. There was a whole weird, complicated thing I did initially before I decided just to buy a whole other Springer, because I did originally paint the entire arm, I think purple, like I spray painted the whole thing purple, and then I tried to like add back in some light gray and some black, and it was too much. It was too much. So I just scrapped it, got another one, ripped off his arms. There you go. I think it was the arms and the head, if I remember right, that I took from that, and like I think the front of the crotch. But see little things like the stomach area, that little black line right there being referenced to just like the little black hinge in between the waist and the torso. A little bit of black right here for the stomach there. Shoulder details, some black and red, like the black and red it has. It's like nothing's really one-to-one because this is an adaptation. But I think I translated the basic colors and design alright. And for another comparison, let's bring in my Megatron, his past life here. Get him situated a little bit. It's Siege Megatron, you know how it is. And you can see he lost a little bit of height in his upgrade, which I think the original toys did too between the two of them. So I mean, it kind of works in that way as well. But you can kind of see it's still weird that Shatterglass Galvatron is evac, but I think it's still just kind of funny at the same time. But I do think they still look nice together, because neither one of them is really all that accurate to what they should be anyways. And then bringing him a bit more forward. So just for the fun of it, we'll have the little Legends guy. So we'll bring the camera back down just for him. You can see it's him and his son. Just a little guy. We love him for it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, let me raise the camera one more time so you can kind of see this better. Kind of just for funsies, I painted this little hollow area back here with some red, just to kind of see if that would kind of translate like the shoulder cannons. Like if you look at it dead on, there's like some red back there. It's stupid, I know. It's dumb, but I like it. Bring the camera back down. But yeah, this was a very taxing custom to do. Like starting it out with Shatterglass Springer, carrying it on to like being Galvatron was insane. I would also like to shout out someone on Twitter. I will have a picture of their name and their Digibash right here. That basically gave me the idea to do this because they did this Digibash forever ago, and I thought it looked really cool. And when I decided to do Galvatron, I looked it up and I was like, I could more or less do that. So of course, while I added my own little bits of spins here and there, a lot of this did come from them. So big shout out to them for that. They do a lot of fun Digibashes that are very inspiring. Definitely check them out if you have that. If you have Twitter. And then even just the little things like painting this mold is a pain. Like having to sand down all of this to get it to work, or having to sand here and here to get this series of hinges to work. Just a lot of little things goes into this painting this mold, but I really think this one genuinely makes it worth it. And of course, I'm just never painting the legs on this mold. That would, I don't know if I could do it. But yeah, let's get him in a so-so pose. I do wonder if that whole kibble on his arm there would it's gonna mess with posing all too much. I hadn't really tried posing this guy. Mainly because I hate the feet on this mold. That is an issue I have with Siege Springer, is that the feet are a little weird in how they work. They just don't stop. There we go. There we go. That's something. But yeah. Anyways, like I said in my custom video, in my top 10 customs, I do really like this custom. It's just very inventive. I wish the Shatterglass line, I say it all the time, I wish the Shatterglass line kind of did things like this. It'd be neat. But alas, they never want to go back to it, despite the fact that they have two molds that would make them so much money if they repainted them Shatterglass. They're only from one of the most popular BotCon sets and one of the most expensive ones on the aftermarket now. But what are the Hasbro people now? But yeah. Anyways, that is pretty much all I have to say. So, please be sure to check out my channel for more video and custom reviews. And please don't forget to subscribe. You can also come check out my Facebook and Twitter pages. Links in the description below. And this is the 14th Prime, signing out.